Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to Real Life Racing episode 4, where I'm going to talk more about the costs to go racing. So as we saw in episode 3, I recently passed my ARDS test, I got my racing license and all that good stuff, so now it was time to look at the next step and what I needed to do to, get into a car on a track and start racing. So I went recently to Oulton Park Circuit in the UK to go and watch some Mazda MX-5 racing, which is a championship that I'm looking at as a potential entryway into this because it's sort of very much entry level, low cost kind of stuff, at least relative to everything else. I went there, I spoke to a lot of people, I was just freely able to go around in the paddock, talk to some teams, and generally get some information that I'm going to relay back to you so you guys know what I'm up against and you know what you yourself might be up against if you decide to do this kind of thing yourself. So I'm going to go into all of the costs involved in specifically racing in this championship. I'm going to use pounds because that's what I know, but if you're in the US, to convert it into dollars, just kind of, add half again or something like that. I'll try and quote some dollar value so you can get a glimpse of it for those of you in the US and other countries as well. I'm sure Google will help you with that. But from what I've seen from other championships as well, all these values seem to be pretty similar to other championships. This is very much entry level, the lowest cost for doing some proper motorsport that you could get. So that's what we're up against. So basically, I was talking to some teams and there's essentially 3 options that you can do to race in this championship. Now, the first option is one that is definitely not possible for me, and that is to buy your own car and run it yourself. So you are responsible for getting it up to specifications, learning all the regulations, having the mechanical knowledge to be able to fix any issues, to install things that you need installing, all that kind of stuff. You've got to have responsibility for storage for the vehicle, transporting it to all of these circuits that you're going to be racing at. Basically, you are in full control and have all the responsibility for your own car. Now, that's something that I just can't do. I don't have that mechanical knowledge. I just can't do that. So the other 2 options are basically the options that are open to me. Now, the second option is to pay a team to run your car. So you buy the car and you then pay a team there's a wide variety of different options, but you can pay them to sort of store the car. They can take it away and then bring it to a circuit for you. They can run the car over the weekend, so they fix any issues that happen. Obviously, you pay for any issues, but they'll fix it. They'll put the fuel in. They'll sort out the tires. Make sure it's up to regulations, all that kind of stuff. The third option is that you can pay a team to rent one of their cars. So not only do they run the car, they're running their own car and you're renting their car to race in. So the third option is kind of like an arrive and drive in karting, where you take your money to a karting circuit and you use one of their karts to race around in. You pay that flat fee and then that's everything sorted. But the prices are certainly a lot different to karting. So to have a team run your car, you're looking at around £600 per round. So every single round of racing that you do, £600 to the team to have them bring your car, run it for the weekend and then take it away again. And if you want to rent one of their cars, you're looking at around £1,100 per round to, again, they bring the car, they run it for the weekend, but it's actually their car. You're not having the upfront cost of buying the car yourself. Now, the thing is that is often lost on a lot of people is that there are so many other different hidden costs around that as well. So I'm going to go into it in detail, but let's first just quickly go over the concept of buying a car or not. So obviously you can buy your own car, and the cost of doing that for this championship and most of these low cost, entry level championships is around £4,000 to £5,000. Now, you can't really get away from that value. So you could buy an absolute banger of a car that isn't, it's barely running and it's on the road, but it's not very good. Say £500, £1,000, but then you can't just take that car and take it onto a track. You've got to add roll cages, all these racing specific decals, modifications, things that you need to bring it up to specifications for whatever championship you're racing in, and that costs money as well. So whether you buy a race prepared car from somebody who's been racing in the championship already and then you run that car, or you buy a car and build it up yourself to be race ready, you're still looking at around the £4,000, £5,000 mark. Anyway, you just can't get away from that. So that's obviously an upfront cost. Now, the benefit of doing that is that at the end of it, you can sell that car as long as you don't, completely total it and get involved in a crash and lose all that money. My ARDS test instructor said that, any money that you spend on this sort of thing, you should consider it dead money, because the worst could happen and you total the car, you get involved in a crash, and that's it, the money is gone. So you can't think of it like it's an investment that you're going to get that money back, but it's a possibility that you might be able to sell the car eventually when you're done. Obviously, that you have to weigh that up of, do you want to put the upfront cost to buy the car, or do you want to have more of an expense per round to pay a team to run the car for you? The thing is, though, when you're paying a team to rent a car, you still have to pay for all the damages. So if you damage the car in a crash, even if it's a little dent or bump or anything like that, and you're renting the car from a team, you still have to pay them for the damage that you caused. So, in that respect, buying a car is the better decision, even if you're having a team run it. But that obviously requires a much larger upfront cost in the first place. So the options for me are to buy a car upfront and have a team run it, or pay a team to rent one of their cars and do it that way. So let's have a look at the costs associated with doing that. So first up, we'll look at the costs per round. So this is every single race event that you want to do, every single race weekend. These are going to be the costs that are involved. You've got the car and team rental, which will be between £600 to £1,100, as I mentioned. £600 if you have bought the car yourself, £1,100 if you're renting the car from the team. Then you've got an entry fee for that race weekend that you pay to the championship. That is for around £400. The test day beforehand that you're going to want to do to practice, obviously, especially in the first few years of doing it, you're going to want to get that practice in of the track and the car. That is around £300 per day. That's for the day before the actual event. Then you've got sort of fuel, transport, hotel costs. You can average that to, say, £200. And then you want to factor in some sort of leeway for damage. If you cause damage to a car, you're going to have to pay for that, whether it's your own car or whether it's a team's car. So you can approximate that at £500. Just as an approximation, you want to have some money worked into your budget for that, just in case the worst happens. You don't want to not factor it in at all, get involved in a crash, and then not have the money to be able to afford to fix the car. So you're looking at around, between £2,000 to £2,500 for every single round that you do, for every race weekend. That's around $3,000 and a bit $1,000 for those of you in the US. Now, a full season of this championship is 8 rounds, so you're looking at between £16,000 to £20,000, depending on whether you buy the car or not. Now, there's also one-off costs involved with doing this as well. So obviously buying the car is one of them. That's between £4,000 and £5,000. There's a championship registration, which you have to pay regardless of whether you're doing 1 round or whether you're doing 8 rounds. So that's just a one-off cost per year for £300. You've got to get your racing license and test and medical all sorted, which I've already done, and I mentioned that was around £400 kind of all in for that. And then obviously all the gear, all the clothing, helmet, overalls, gloves, boots, all that kind of stuff. You're looking at around £600 for that. You can spend significantly more, but that's kind of what you're looking at. So basically, the way that it would be is that if you buy a car, which over the course of a longer period is going to be the better way to do it. It's going to be the cheapest way to do it if you're going to be racing for more than, say, 1 season. Your first season is going to come out to around £22,000, which is, sort of around maybe $30,000, something like that. And then the second season onwards is going to be around, say, £15,000. So that's what you're looking at. Those are the kind of prices that it takes. That's the kind of money that it takes to race even at the lowest level of proper car racing. Now, when you think that in the 2014 and 2015 seasons and series of this real life racing series, those episodes, I was doing karting, and that was £50 for every round. So an entire season of 10 rounds would cost me £500, whereas this, an entire season, costs £20,000. So it's a huge difference, and I kind of came away from, this information gathering day kind of a little bit deflated. Now, it's not that I didn't know that it was going to be expensive, but what I've generally done with this whole series and this whole journey, if you like, is to take it one step at a time. So we had the karting first, and then I went and did a track day experience. Then I was focused on getting my racing license, and then it was time to, focus on how do I get actually racing. So the actual sort of costs and everything involved in getting it done wasn't really fully in my mind until I really started to think about it once I'd passed the steps to get my license in episode 3. And it was kind of sort of a reality check, if you like, that it's just so expensive. Now, I don't come from a wealthy background. A few of the guys I spoke to there was some older guys, people who probably have a bit of money, and maybe £2,000 for one race is the same feeling to them as what £50 for one kart race is to me. People have money. I don't. I don't come from a wealthy background. I feel like I'm quite successful in what I do, and I make enough money to be able to support myself, support my fiance, pay for food, pay for rent, all that kind of stuff. But I don't have the extra money that it would take to be able to spend £20,000 per year to go racing. I just don't have that money. That would have to be spare money on top of everything else, and that's it's probably more than what I actually earn in an entire year after taxes. So it kind of brought it into my mind when I did some of the math and I worked it all out, looked at the numbers, that this is a huge leap for me, given my current financial situation. This is not something that I can do. Maybe if I saved up for a year, I could afford to do one round, by renting a car. This isn't something that I can realistically see myself doing. So the next step becomes sort of thinking, well, how do you do it? How do people do it? There was a lot of people there. The grid had there was 40 people, more than 40 people racing in the MX5 championship, and they were split up into 2 races of 20 people each in each race. So there's a lot of people doing it. There was other cars going on there doing other motorsport events. So it's not as if people aren't doing it, but it brought into my mind, how on earth am I going to do that? Like, it's such a huge leap. So I sort of came away from it deflated and just thinking, this isn't possible. And that was my first thought. There's no way that I can do this. So that's kind of still where I am. I spoke about it on my stream, and that people were sort of mentioning, you could set up a donation goal, you could crowdfund it, things like that. And I don't really see that as an option. I don't think it's too much. That's way too much money to do something like that. And I don't really want to put that on you guys, the viewers. I guess if every single person who watched one of my real life racing videos donated a single dollar, then I would probably have enough to do a season. But it never works like that, and I don't know. I'm not sure that is a legitimate thing to do. That is a good long-term strategy to be able to race regularly. So then the next step is to start kind of think about sponsorship and looking at that kind of stuff. But then I'm thinking, how on earth do I secure over £20,000 worth of sponsorship? Now, obviously, it's all relative, right? So someone who's very rich and has, say £1 million net worth every year, There's many people who are a lot more rich than that, but to them, £2,000 for a race weekend 8 times a year, £20,000 in total over the course of a year might just feel like a drop in the ocean. You know, it might feel like, say, what £200 feels like to me. But so you know, I can understand that there's certainly there's going to be people out there who are wealthy enough to not worry about that. Motorsport is something that they're just interested in and they find fun. And you know, from being there, it looked a lot of fun. It really did. It looked so much fun being around the paddock, learning how it all works, seeing all the you know, the awnings with all the cars in, and then seeing them go to the assembly location and then drive out onto the track, and then go racing. It looked a lot of fun. So obviously there's going to be plenty of people who have the means to do it just out of their own pocket. I don't. I make enough to be able to support myself, and any extra. I can't even justify taking money away from the money that I spend to buy food or rent to buy, say, an Xbox One X or a Nintendo Switch. You know, I kind of want those things. I would like a new phone maybe, but those are big purchase decisions for me. So £20,000 to race is, you know, that's not even on the radar of what a big purchase decision is. That's just not possible. So then, you know, you think about sponsorship, and that I don't think that I have a channel of 170,000 people, but I don't necessarily think that is enough of a pull for companies, say, to spend £20,000 on me. It would have to come from an outside source for me to feel comfortable with racing. You know, it would have to come from sponsorship. I couldn't divert my funds away from life to put to this. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. And then I don't think that securing that kind of level of sponsorship is a possibility. You know, I'm going to look into it. I'm going to talk about it. But at the moment, it kind of feels like this is already the end. You know, the end of the road. It doesn't go on from this. You know, maybe I can do one round at some point in the future, and that will be my taste of motorsport that I get in my life, say. But as far as thinking about doing this as a regular thing, and this season was kind of showcasing the journey to maybe doing a full championship in 2019 and bringing those races to you and talking through them and talking through my experiences of racing in a championship and learning and all that kind of stuff. At this point, it feels like there's no way. There's just no way. So yeah, it's a shame that I'm not able to make a video that is more upbeat for episode 4. But it's hard to, you know, I don't fake it. I don't fake how I feel on YouTube. I just talk freely, and that is how it is. And when I see the numbers that are required, it's just too much. It seems like it's just too much. So yeah, that is where we're at the moment. I don't know what episode 5 is going to be. I don't know when it's going to be. I don't know what's next. You know, I'm going to look into sponsorship, I guess. I'm going to try to figure out a way to possibly get it, get this ball rolling and get some things sorted. But right now, I just can't see it happening. So yeah, a reality check is episode 4. Like I said, I don't know what's next. So I can't really say, you know, what the next step will be or anything like that. I'll just guess I'll keep working on it and see if I can make something work. But I don't know. I just don't know. So I've rambled on way too much now. Thank you guys for watching. I really, really, really do appreciate it. And there's this real life racing series and thing has been one of my favorite parts of my channel. And it's been really nice to sort of get back into it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. And thank you so much for all the support, as always. And obviously, I don't know when it'll be, but I'll see you next time.